So thank you very much, Angelos. We are looking forward to hearing your event today, and over to you.
That was the warmest welcome. Thank you very much, and thank you all for attending this event. It will be short but sweet, I believe. And let's start directly. So I forget to thank the hosts all the time, so I'll put a slide for you guys. Thank you very much for organizing this. This is actually your success, not ours. All right, here we go.
I love the picture.
So I believe that the problem starts at school, and it can start with little things such as Santa Claus, which is a small lie. So my first question to you guys, and I'd like to see some interaction in the chat area. Do you think it's okay to tell kids about Santa Claus? Is it okay to tell them a small white lie? So I'd like to see your comments. Perhaps you can pick up the microphone as well if you want, but let's use the chat. Yes, yes. Anyone else? I don't think it's okay. And the problem is that when we form an opinion, we're close to any other opinion that doesn't agree with us. And this is called confirmation bias. We're looking for evidence that supports our version, our belief, and we disregard anything else that's against it. And an example is, for instance, evolution and creation. When we learn that God made humans, then we look for evidence against evolution. For instance, what the scripts are writing is evidence against evolution. So that's one problem. As I said, it's difficult to find the other side of the argument. A great website is Kialo, where you can have a discussion without the hate speech that you find in Facebook or other sites. So if you go to Kialo and you type Santa Claus, you'll find that there are two major arguments us discussing this question. Is he beneficial? Should parents perpetuate myths like Santa Claus? And if you click on this discussion, you will find that so many people said this and so many others supported the other side, but you will find both sides of the argument. For instance, with Santa Claus, you will see that there's fewer people, green, who are pro, and more people who are against, and the arguments are stronger on this side. So we're not going to discuss it now, but you can go and find out that there are arguments that you never thought of. Telling a lie to a kid, a parent telling lies to a kid, that's not expected. The kid is looking for information. The kid is looking to find out what's true and what's not. And here come the parents and they tell him lies. And when the kid is starting to figure out that this is not possible, it can't be happening, the parents are still telling lies. So if you read the arguments against, you will see that they're very solid and you might change your mind. If I tell you the arguments, it's not going to work because we don't believe others. We're stuck with our opinion. If we find the evidence on our own, then it's easier. And someone said here, Andrew, yes, thinking about it is the start of a slippery slope. Slippery slope means that we start with something and then they tell us more lies and we can't tell the truth. And we go down the slippery slope. We believe everything. So the content today, we're going to see how big the problem is. If there's a problem, the lack of critical thinking. We're going to discuss what's the harm, the obstacles in developing critical thinking, and some tips how to find the truth and some quick wins. As I said, it's going to be short and sweet. It's not going to be more than 3 hours. Just kidding. It's a presentation I gave in an international conference, modified slightly. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment, to make a decision. Now, you can easily tell which one is fake, but in other issues, it's a bit more complicated. So when we go to a circus, when a kid goes to a circus and sees this man performing, they might believe that it's true, or they might believe that it's not true. And the parents can help, of course, but how do you know that this can happen without bleeding? You probably use your knowledge from other sciences, such as biology. How do you know that people cannot bend spoons like Uri Geller, if you remember? This guy was a crook. He is a crook because he doesn't tell people, look, I'm going to do a trick. He tells them that he has metaphysical powers given from aliens and stuff. So there's a difference between magicians and crooks. Democritus said there are two forms of knowledge. One is legitimate and the other is bastard. The latter form includes our senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste. So what is he saying? That these are senses, what we see, hear, smell, taste, are not as accurate. It's a bastard form of knowledge. So let's start with this argument that if we see something, or if we experience something, or if we smell something, it may not be true, despite the fact that most people will swear using their experiences and say, I've seen it with my own eyes. It happened to me. I tried it and it worked. So Democritus, 2,500 years ago says, no, be careful. This may not be true. So what is true? And how do we form our beliefs? What sort of evidence do we use? We use evidence by others, and we use evidence that we find and select, and we try to evaluate this evidence. The factors that the sources of knowledge include personal experience, and let me remind you quickly that Democritus said that this is not very valid, very always valid, reliable. We see what others are doing, or they tried this and therefore it should be good. For TV advertisements, observing people in environment, etc. Smoking starts like this. So the sources of the knowledge, what we read day by day influence the output. And you're familiar with this, garbage in, garbage out. A lot of people are stuck in their beliefs because they're reading garbage. So now you're going to ask me, what is garbage? How do you find out what is true and what is correct? And that's the subject of today's presentation. Theory of knowledge is the set of rules that we follow to decide what to believe and what to discard. Wesam, you totally believed in Uri Geller, right? A lot of us did. Yeah. Where do we get our knowledge? A number of sources, a lot of sources, including prophecies, including Twitter, superstitions, fables. Some of it is true. For some of it, we are unsure. And some of it may be completely false, although we are unaware that it is false. Now, how big is the problem? Is it new? No, it's not. You see advertisements here from earlier ages, decades, selling material that could be true or could not be true. Fish oil. Cigarettes were once promoted to be good. Some of you may recognize this picture because it went around in Facebook. Does anyone recognize it? It's a protest against vaccines, dated 1919, I think, in Canada. So it's the same arguments, exactly the same arguments against vaccines are going around again 100 years later. And people think that they're valid for several reasons. Now, this is the opportunity for you to participate. If you want to scan this or quickly go to this link, which I'm going to copy. It's this one. I'm going to give it to you in a second. So we're going to do a quick poll. It's anonymous. If you could please click on this and let me know when you accessed it. Oops. I don't think that's the link, is it? Dropbox? Shouldn't be. So I probably got the wrong link if that's astrology. astrology is not a science. Astronomy is a science. Astrology is not taught in any university around the world. In fact, this single fact will help you perhaps realize that it's not true. And here's the fact. 2000 years ago, when it was created, the sun on the 1st of January was on the star sign of Capricornus. 2000 years later, because of a shift in the axis of the Earth, the sun is no longer here and it's here. So that means what? It means that you've been studying the wrong star sign, the wrong zodiac. So the traditional ones are these dates, and they are wrong, and these are the right ones. Why are they right? Because when I was born in August 8th, I thought I was a Leo, according to this, but I'm not a Leo because the sun is no longer in the Leo star sign when I'm born 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago. So that should easily prove that what you've been reading is crap. But anyway, the problem is big. Higher education has failed to meet society's needs, requirements for well-educated citizens. School children today, and in the last 50 years, but it's a shame today because it's 2020. They lack training in critical thinking skills. In fact, we Greeks are at the bottom of the European Union in literacy, mathematics, and reading. And here are the results from a very large study that happens every 1 or 2 years, I think. And you can see that these countries, students from these countries have high scores in countries, Canada, China, North Europe, whereas these orange countries, Australia, Russia, are doing okay. Greece is at the bottom, and here we got the poorest critical thinking skills and reading, science, mathematics in schools. By the way, you can find my presentation on my website. You can download all of these and the links, so no need to be taking notes. We have a difficulty in differentiating opinions versus facts. A lot of people in these countries can find it even more harder because they lack the knowledge. So once again, the slippery slope. What's the harm? We don't know what to believe, and we might believe anything. Why is it important? It's important when making decisions, when choosing, when acting on those decisions. In what areas? In all areas of life. Money, politics, relationships, health, vaccines, global issues, as we're going to see. It's like instead of making progress, we're going backwards. And I like this picture because there's actually a backward running event. If you wish to join, these people are running backwards. It's like us. With lack of critical thinking, we make errors in at least 3 major areas. And I'll describe them. Financial area. If you go on Amazon.com, you'll find that people are buying this thing. They're paying money. It measures ghosts, senses ghosts. And in fact, there are 1,200 ratings, which means that at least 10,000 or lots of people bought it. Astrology, again, if you call this number, then you'll find the secret to your talents, life events, luck, everything. I think England has forced homeopathic medicine to state on the box that this doesn't do anything. It doesn't have any effects on you. But it's still being sold in several areas in the world. Organic diets. A lot of people believe that organic food is better than chemical food. And this is a joke. What's the effect of it? It's losing money. You may find more about it if you search for it, if you Google it. But this may convince you. People who argue for organic or non-chemical foods, they probably failed the class in chemistry at school, because we learned there that everything around us is chemical. There's nothing that doesn't include chemicals. Everything is chemical. So one part of the one area of damage is financial. Another one is the ethical one. If you pay these people money, then you're employing fraud, cheats, and con artists. And here's a question for you. I'd like to see participation again. There's, for instance, chemists who sell 3 groups of products that are worthless. And there's 2 groups of them. It's the chemist who knows that it's worthless and sells it. And it's the chemist who doesn't know, who believes that this product is excellent and sells it. But he should have known. Which one do you think is worse? I'd like you to type A or B in the chat box. Katalin says A. So if you know that it's worthless and you're still selling it, you're lying. Weston, yes. Andrew thinks they should have known, right? Because it's their job. They're the experts. Both, yes. Okay, I guess that's an opinion. We're not going to conclude in A or B, but you see that there are problems there, don't you? What are these types of products that there's the categories that they're selling and they don't do anything? I mean, what products do we find in pharmacy shops that are useless and they shouldn't be there? Yes, the placebo effect works, but what is a category of products? I'll help you. Vitamins, yes, excellent. All the supplements, the food supplements that they're selling, unless a doctor finds out with tests that you're deficient in something, they don't do anything. Facial products, creams and stuff. Hairless. Yeah, you can see that it doesn't work. Okay, there's one more category, but I don't want to go there because a lot of you believe in it. All right, I'll just tell you. Homeopathy, as I said before, it doesn't work, but they're selling it. And some of them know that it doesn't work, and some others think it works. A third category is health. What bad can happen if I take a harmless product? There's a group of people who are arguing and selling their books and their products and telling people to drink their urine. I'll see if we can play this one. It's a lot of fun. Let me just see if it works, if the link works. Just give me a second. Click again. It's opening on a different window, but let me put it up here. If it works, you'll see it. Otherwise, I'll send you the link and you can watch it on your own. Fine. Okay. James Randi is pretending to do what is called psychic surgery. Psychic surgery doesn't. Down there, don't get it on your trout. Help it. Psychic surgery doesn't require any surgical equipment. This is terrible. It's getting worse and worse. Second now. Wow, that doesn't come up.
a bonus. That's a bit better. Just a second. Just 1 second now.
Maybe better for you.
You don't feel any better? The strange thing is, after this operation is all over, now, mind you, folks, I want you to bear in mind, please, that people are showing this as if it were really serious, as if it actually did take place, and as if surgery were really performed. People do this, they go to the Philippines, they spend their money, and they frankly return home, most cases, to die. It's a little bit funny to watch it, perhaps, and you say, gee, I know it's play acting. It's not play acting when they go, by the tens of thousands every year. Sanford, I want to thank you for being a wonderful volunteer. I think you deserve a round of applause for that.
Okay. Now, did anyone find out how he was doing it?
Of course, he had something underneath his hand and it was all fake.
Okay, good.
The reason is because I'm an energy healer. I mean, we do a lot of stuff, but you don't actually see it. Yeah.
Right. Well, the good thing is that he explained that this is a trick. A lot of people paid a lot of money, as he said, in the Philippines and Thailand, and they thought that they performed the psychic surgery and they went home and their condition was the same because nothing happened here. It was a trick. And they went home to die, he says, because they didn't do the right thing. They didn't do the proper treatment to go to the doctor and have the surgery. Other people died because they believed their sort of religious cult leader, Jones. 900 people drank cyanide and they gave it to the kids. So believing in the wrong things is dangerous, can be dangerous. And we see this today with global warming. I don't believe in global warming, but we see the effects, or we see it with vaccines, with what is called COVIDiots. In India and Arabia, they told them to eat cow dung. In Iran, they drank industrial methanol. A lot of people died. Churches told people to spray themselves with salt water, or they told them that Holy Communion, eating from the same spoon doesn't transmit the disease. It's safe, and a lot of people got sick, and some of them died. A lot of priests around the world died too because they didn't believe in it. So the problem is big, and it has three major areas that we see the effects: financial, health, and ethical side. So the question is, how do I find the truth? And I'd like to remind you again, the first one of the first slides, Democritus. Using our senses, I've seen it work, is not good enough as evidence. It might be as a start, but then we need to do other things to find out whether it works or not. So seeing something, believing should not be based on, I've seen it myself, I've seen someone else who was cured. So what should we use? Should we use logic and arguments? And logic goes like this: if that, then this. Could this be wrong? Aristotle said human beings are rational animals, except when they're not. These two are Nobel winners, Kahneman and Tversky, and they helped us understand that our opinion and our beliefs can be very, very, very wrong. Sometimes it's easy to figure out that something cannot be truth by using logic. For instance, kids, when they start making sense, they say, Mommy, Daddy, how does Santa Claus fit in the chimney? Or how can you be in so many places in so little time? So they start figuring out the truth. Adults have difficulty dismissing things that they believed when they were young. And religion is one of these. For instance, when you use logic, then you start asking questions like this. Do churches need lightning rods? The house of God, why do they need to be protected from God? But sometimes logic can lead us astray. Here's an example: 2 equals a number, 1 equals a number, therefore 2 equals 1. And there's a number of cognitive or logical fallacies, as they are called. And this is a poster that you can download and stick it on the fridge or at school for the kids, that summarizes the major ones. And we're going to look at some of these, although there's more than 150 of these. So these fallacies make us think that we are right, although we are wrong. And Kahneman tells, I think it's Kahneman who tells the story about the robber. No, I think it's Danny and Kruger. These two researchers, they tell the story of a robber who went to a couple of banks without a mask, and he robbed them successfully, collected the money, looked at the camera, said hello, and ran away. And he was arrested a couple of hours later because he wasn't wearing a mask. They identified him. And when he was arrested, he was puzzled. He said, but I wore the juice, the lemon juice. He read somewhere that if you use lemon juice and ink, it makes it invisible. So he thought that he was invisible. So another fallacy is argument from authority. When we listen to someone who has authority saying, argue something, then we tend to believe it. X is true because such and such said so. And someone with authority could be the President of the United States, who said some things that are nonsense, such as this, and was retweeted and liked by hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people. Another fallacy is argument from history, because we believed for so many years that acupuncture works, therefore it works. It's ancient Chinese, therefore it works. So this is an argument from history. X is true because it's been believed for so long, because the scripts say so. Doesn't matter what scripts. And then here comes common sense again, and you're saying, a kid might say, all right, these animals were on Noah's Ark for 40 days and nights. What did they eat? And obviously animals feed with each other, correct? Argument from ignorance. This happens when we don't know where something comes from, for instance, the virus. Therefore, we include it's Bill Gates. I don't know why it's Bill Gates all the time, but it's Bill Gates. Conspiracy theories tend to flourish in uncertainty because we have a need to feel in control. Another fallacy, another problem is the availability heuristic. And this refers to the tendency to look for something that comes to our mind easily. So we believe that terrorists are very, very dangerous, whereas toddlers are not very dangerous. Why? Because we read in newspapers about this, but we don't read about toddlers killing people. And here's the statistics. This is the truth versus the availability heuristic. This comes first into our mind, but this doesn't. According to statistics, toddlers kill 21 people per year compared to 2 per year. So 1/10 by terrorists, or maybe all of them are less than toddlers. And there's other statistics. We're not afraid of lawnmowers. We're not afraid of this, but it kills a lot of people. And we're not afraid of other Americans killing us. And as you can see, we should be much more afraid of other Americans than toddlers or jihadists. Another problem we face is numeracy, lack of numeracy. Again, the availability heuristic will tell us that sharks are very, very, very dangerous, although we're not afraid to get in the car and drive around for hours in traffic and in dangerous conditions. What are the statistics? How many people are killed by sharks per year? Give me a number in the chat box, perhaps. How many people do you think die from sharks per year? 5. Close enough. The correct number is 10. Yeah, that's because we all watched Jones. Whereas how many people die every year from car accidents in Greece alone, which is such as just a small city of China, for instance, 10 million people, there's 2,000 deaths, so you think, per year in Greece alone. The major problem is this one, and I'm going to describe it with examples. Here's a test for you. We find out that the more churches a city or a town has, the more nightclubs it has. Can you please give me a reason? Why do you think we have, there's a correlation, there's a strong correlation between the number of churches and the number of nightclubs and cafeterias and discos? Again, if we do a study, we'll find that there is a big correlation. As these increase, these increase. Or in other words, as these increase, these increase. It's a difficult test. Not a lot of people find it. So I'm going to give you the answer. When we have a correlation and we find that two things increase at the same time, then it could be that this one causes this one, or it could be that this variable is causing this one. And some people say, oh, people sin and then they need to go to church, or they're good and then they go and have some fun. But we need to think that because something happens together with something else, it doesn't mean that this causes the other. It could be that these ones cause each other, or it could be that another third variable is causing these both. And in this case, the third variable that is the cause is the population. So the larger the city or the town, the more churches we have, and the more cafeterias, nightclubs. I'll give you a second example. The more high school we have, the more prisons we have. And you understand again that the variable that causes both the correlation is a third variable, the population of the city. And again, a third variable, the more bald people there are in an area, the more hairdressers we have. These two things are related, appear to be causing one each other, but they're not. It's the population of the city. I hope you understand the example, that because something happens together with something else, it doesn't mean that it causes it. Because this duck has crossed the door, it doesn't mean that she did it. Okay, correlation is not causation. People have a very hard time to understand what I'm saying here, and they make a lot of errors thinking that because I did this when that happened, therefore the treatment caused the effect. I'll give you some more examples because this is very crucial to understand. A lot of people argue about vaccines and causing autism. In the same way, we can have a similar correlation. As organic food sales increase, at the same time, autism cases increased. Therefore, we can conclude, if we don't know science, if we don't have critical thinking, that organic foods cause autism, as you can see clearly in this graph. See, as the years go on, the number of cases increases because the organic food sales increased. Again, this is wrong. There is a correlation. This is not false, but this does not cause the other thing. Same thing here. You see there's a very close correlation between ice cream sales and shark attacks. And people might start, uneducated people might start saying, oh, it's sharks like ice creams, therefore they eat people who ate ice creams, but it's not true. The correlation is due to summertime, hot weather, we go to the beach and shark attacks increase. At the same time, we eat more ice cream because it's hot. So there is a correlation, but it doesn't mean that this one causes the other. Okay. If you don't understand it, your life will be complicated. Another problem is the argument from popularity. A lot of people believe that something is true because a lot of people believe in it. It's popular. A lot of people do acupuncture, therefore acupuncture plus the history argument. It's ancient Chinese. It's not ancient Chinese, by the way, medicine. Anecdotes are good. My uncle did this, my friend did this, but they can be worthless. Now I see that in the chat box you're fighting for or against homeopathy. Let's not do that. Let's just examine how we find the truth. Let's not get into a single argument about something. You may still believe it or not, but at least I'd like you to, at the end of the seminar, to be able to search, to do a proper search. Aloe vera, dozens of satisfied customers. If we follow the anecdotal evidence, we might say, therefore it works. So many people say it works, therefore it works. If we follow the science route, then we might look at randomized controlled trials at major universities published in good studies, in good journals. Study after study after study after study, conclude that aloe vera does not have the effect that it does claim it has, and it's dangerous. It does have a single effect, but it's not what you think. You can Google it, but if you Google it, do not Google the benefits of aloe vera, because you will come up with maybe 1,000 sites saying how good it is. Perhaps you should Google the opposite, or go just like Kialo, the site that I described, go to the damages of aloe vera, or criticism, or critical thinking, or skeptics and aloe vera. Or you can just go to Wikipedia and start there. Some people say don't use Google search. Yes, there are problems in searching unless you know how to search. And there are probably better search engines, but it's a really good one if you want to start there. So all these fallacies, all these problems can affect us and can make us think that we're correct, despite the fact that we're totally wrong. So where do we find the answers? And the answers are in science. Now, a lot of you may disagree and say, no, science is misleading us. It's science. Scientists are corrupt and stuff. Scientists are people. Science is a method. So science is not corrupt. The method is not corrupt. Some people, perhaps 5%, are corrupted scientists, yes, but science as a method is not corrupt. It's a logical process. It's self-correcting. It's based on experimentation, and it's much, much better than all of the other ones that we discussed before. How does it work? We observe that when I did this, then that happened. And we think, oh, could be correlation, or it could be true, could be correct. So we ask a question, I wonder, does homeopathy work? Does acupuncture works? Does Reiki work? We form a hypothesis, and then we test this hypothesis. We look at the results, and if the results support the hypothesis, we replicate the study. We do another 10 studies, another 100 studies, and the consensus will tell us the truth. A single study is good, but it's not good enough. We need more studies, but this is how science works. It's self-correcting. It works. It tells us better stories than the other sources of truth, anecdotal evidence, authority, etc. I'll give you a couple of examples, and I'll move on to the conclusion of this seminar. One of the first of the youngest researchers in the world, 9-year-old Emily, heard that people had a therapeutic touch, and she said, "Okay, maybe we can test this. How can we test it?" And she came up with this idea. Excuse me. She said, "How about we do it while you're not looking? So let's put a let's put a paravan, a blind in front of you, so that you can't see when I have my hands over you. And if you can feel the energy, then I can agree with you that yes, you can feel the energy or what have you." She tested a number of people who agreed to the experiment, who thought they have abilities, and she concluded that none of them was able to figure out when she had her hand over or not. And she published the study. She was the youngest researcher. In the same way, we can test dowsers, those who believe that they can find water. And here's a short and simple experiment. You put water in some of these boxes. They don't know where it is, and they go around and try to find where the water is. If they can hit it with success, more than luck, then you can conclude that they have these abilities. If not, you publish a study and you say, none of the dowsers were able to find the water. Therefore, we don't think dowsing works. It's as simple as this, and it can be very, very complicated. We use placebos, we use control groups and experimental groups, but I'm not going to go into this. This is if you want to study this, I'll give you good links. And I'm just going to tell you that even in science, we have pyramids of evidence, which means that some studies are better than others. And here you can see the pyramid. These are not as valid. These are more valid. So for instance, an expert's opinion, someone who comes on TV and says the vaccine is good, the vaccine is not good, it's just an opinion. It needs to be based on studies, and better studies, and more studies, and randomized controlled double-blind studies. So someone might cite a study at this level, and it's not as good as a study at this level, published in a very good magazine, or a systematic review and meta-analysis published in a Cochrane database, etc. Scientists know about this. Pseudoscientists don't, and they have reversed the pyramid, and they think my opinion is good enough, or if someone is an expert, therefore it's good enough. An old article from 1956 is good enough, which is not true. So what can we do? This is a cartoon from one of my books. If you want to change yourself and others, you need to change the way you've been doing things. For instance, maybe it's time you take a course on critical thinking. You may not believe me, but how about using this as a motivation, as a spark to say, why don't I attend this excellent logical and critical thinking course? I'll develop my own, but I'm not going to suggest do my course. Do this course if you want. It's a couple of weeks. It's free. It's amazing. And I hope it will help you figure out some things. And tell other people as well to join it. We do that. How do we decide what to believe? You might go on Wikipedia and find out the process that we follow when we evaluate evidence. This explains how we evaluate evidence. You might just use one of the many cheat sheets for critical thinking that libraries give to people who are smart enough to go to the library, or to kids, or we should give this to schools. So here, using this cheat sheet, when you read such and such invented machine that beats gravity, you should ask who benefits from it, what is another perspective, what do other people say, where can we see this, when did this occur, why is this relevant, why is this the best evidence, how, etc. So good questions here to answer. Or you can find another cheat sheet. This one I like because of the title, crap, evaluating my sources with crap. Again, you can find these in libraries and in my slides. I'm going to move on. Or you can just go to one of those many fact-check organizations, the official fact-check organizations, and you can ask the question that you want. You will find a lot of topics here about vaccines, about homeopathy, about see what they say. Now you might say, oh yeah, they're paid by others. All right, all these people are paid by others. Is it a conspiracy? Snopes, yes, they're all paid by others. But you find out that for some of these you believe them, some you don't. So how can they be paid? Anyway, there's a lot of areas that they answer questions. It's very interesting. For instance, can we go for a swim after a large meal? And some people in the world believe that it's dangerous. You might find the answer here. Is Coca-Cola good for this or good for that? Or you might even consider, you might be inspired. I had other people who told me, you inspired me, I'm going to become an ambassador for critical thinking. I'm going to join this site, or I'm going to give lectures to school. And school is the key. We need to improve the education system. We need to start there. Because if you start with Santa Claus and fairy tales, then people go on the slippery slope. The problem is that education is not the learning of facts. It's training the mind to think. Alexander the Great. Now you probably believed it, but he didn't say this. So what we need to do at school is, instead of teaching them how to remember information, teach them how to do these. The problem is that we teach them memorization of things. they have all the information in the world in their pockets, in their mobile phones, as long as they know how to search. So learning how to learn is probably the key. And this is an accurate source, but Afinos said it. A lot of people signed a petition to make critical thinking mandatory at school. Some succeeded. In UK and Scotland, they do teach courses where they teach kids how to find out whether evidence is credible or not. So for instance, yes, use Google Scholar, but learn how to differentiate between good and bad sources. And they also teach them how to evaluate and develop arguments, which is you'll find it in the critical thinking course that I suggested. Why is it necessary? Well, if you want to be employed, this is one of the top skills that you need at work, according to employees as well. So my ending thoughts, let's not discuss individual pseudosciences. Let's not fight with each other. I'm not going to be able to convince any of you that homeopathy doesn't work or that acupuncture works or what have you. I might be able to move you 10 inches to the left, but I don't think I'll do that. People are convinced when they find the evidence themselves. And for instance, realizing that our senses may mislead us is a first step. But I don't think that I've succeeded because I've given the presentation hundreds of times. Maybe 30% of people do not need it. They just confirm their beliefs. 30% I have some effect, and 30% there's nothing I can do about it. Teachers should prepare the students for the students' future, not for our past. And that's what we do. Our students complain that they're being taught from teachers who are living 20 years behind. But the problem is that if we keep on doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep on getting what we've been getting. So we need to change. My challenge to you, please start reading material about critical thinking. Help others join a critical thinking course. They're fun. Massimo, thank you very much. Cochrane Library, yes. So what will you remember from this presentation? Some of you might be annoyed. Some of you might be motivated to search for more. Some of you might stop falling into the logical fallacies. It's going to be difficult. We can't stop this guy because he's been planted there. Some of you may still believe that it's good to tell kids about Santa Claus. Nothing bad happens to me. Please, 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 please go and read the evidence against, the arguments against. You can't continue living having one only side of thought. So that's the end. This is my site. If you go to free stuff, you'll find link to PowerPoint presentations, links to my books and stuff, other presentations, articles and stuff. And if you want me to come and talk to your company or give a seminar to a school, I do the critical thinking presentation for free. So you can invite me. The other ones you have to pay, and you can find out how much it costs and stuff, but that's not the purpose. You can contact me through email or find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. I'll be happy to hear from you. And that's the end of the presentation, so I'll be happy to